Florence, a city of whispers and shadows, where power flowed like liquid gold and art bloomed like forbidden flowers. You think you know the Renaissance? You think you know the Medici? Think again. Because beneath the shimmering surface of history, behind the colossal figures you learned about in textbooks, lurked another world. A world of brilliance, ambition, and dazzling talent. A world where forgotten masters crafted miracles for the most powerful family in Europe. Prepare to uncover the shocking truth about the artist's history left behind. Number 7, Benozzo Gozzoli, the painter of miracles in a private chapel. Imagine a private chapel hidden within a grand palazzo in Florence. This was no ordinary room. It was a space designed to impress, to inspire awe, and to subtly declare the immense power of its owner. Cosimo de' Medici, known as Cosimo the Elder, commissioned this very special chapel. For this grand task, he turned to an artist whose name often gets lost in the dazzling light of later stars, Benozzo Gozzoli. Gozzoli was born in 1420 or 1421, a time when Florence buzzed with new ideas and artistic experiments. He began his journey as an apprentice, a common path for young men entering the world of art. The records show he worked alongside the famed Fra Angelico, a master known for his serene and devotional paintings. This early training provided Gozzoli with a strong foundation in fresco painting, the technique of applying pigments to wet plaster. He also honed his skill in rendering details, a trait that would later define his most famous work. Gozzoli's initial projects took him outside Florence. He worked in places like Montefalco and San Gimignano, decorating churches with scenes from the lives of saints and other religious narratives. These early works already showed a unique flair, a tendency to fill every corner of his canvases with bustling activity and intricate observations of the natural world. He included portraits of local figures, animals, and detailed landscapes, creating a sense of life and vibrancy that drew the eye. This approach to storytelling, through art, where every element contributed to the rich tapestry of the scene, would prove invaluable when he received the call from Florence's most influential family. The year was 1459 when Benozzo Gozzoli received the commission that would secure his place in the history books, even if that place sometimes feels like a footnote today. Cosimo de' Medici invited him to decorate the private chapel within his newly built Palazzo Medici Riccardi. This was not just any job, it was a statement. The chapel was small, but its importance was immense. It was here that the Medici family held their private devotions, but it also served as a showcase for their wealth, their piety, and their cultivated taste. Gozzoli embarked on painting the procession of the Magi across the chapel walls. This was no static religious scene. It was a grand, moving parade, a spectacle of color and splendor that unfolded across 3 walls. The journey of the Magi was a popular theme, but Gozzoli made it uniquely Florentine, uniquely Medici. The fresco cycle begins with the journey of the eldest king, Melchior, who represents Cosimo the Elder himself. He is depicted riding a white horse, his face serene, surrounded by a magnificent retinue. The figures are dressed in the finest brocades and velvets, their garments shimmering with gold leaf. This was a testament to Gozzoli's meticulous attention to detail and his skill in depicting luxury. The landscape through which they pass is a lush Florentine countryside filled with olive groves, rolling hills, and distant castles. Every plant, every bird, every tiny flower seems to be rendered with precision, inviting the viewer to explore every inch of the wall. As the procession continues, the middle king Caspar appears, representing Piero de' Medici, Cosimo's son. Piero, riding a magnificent horse, is accompanied by a host of courtiers and servants. But among them, Gozzoli subtly included portraits of several prominent members of the Medici family and their allies. Lorenzo the Magnificent, still a young boy at the time of the fresco's creation, rides alongside his father. His brother Giuliano is also present, and records from the period suggest that the Medici family actively participated in guiding Gozzoli's choices for these portraits, ensuring that key allies and family members were included in this visual roll call of power and influence. It was a clever way to blend religious narrative with political statement. The youngest King Balthazar, representing Lorenzo the Magnificent, in his youthful glory, leads the final part of the procession. This section is perhaps the most vibrant, filled with young men on horseback, their faces radiant, their costumes a riot of color and elaborate design. Gozzoli even included a self-portrait in this section, discreetly looking out from the crowd, a testament to his own quiet pride in the monumental undertaking. The entire procession moves towards the altar wall, where a lost fresco of the Adoration of the Child once completed the narrative, showing the Magi finally reaching their destination. The chapel itself thus became a journey, a spiritual and worldly pilgrimage through the Medici family's influence. Gozzoli's use of light and shadow, though not as dramatic as later artists, contributed to the richness of the scene. The figures stand out against the background, creating a sense of depth and movement. His technique of working quickly on wet plaster, ensuring the colors permeated the wall, allowed for the vibrant and lasting quality of the frescoes. The chapel glows with a jewel-like intensity, a testament to the artist's mastery of his craft. Contemporary accounts describe visitors being awestruck by the chapel's beauty. It was a private space, but its reputation spread, becoming a symbol of Medici splendor. The Medici paid Gozzoli handsomely for his work. Records indicate he was well compensated, receiving payments over several years as the frescoes progressed. This financial stability allowed him to focus entirely on the demanding task, ensuring the high quality of the finished product. His relationship with the Medici appears to have been one of mutual respect. Cosimo the Elder, a shrewd patron, recognized Gozzoli's talent for narrative detail and his ability to create a visually rich environment that suited the family's image. Gozzoli delivered exactly what was desired, a blend of piety, pomp, and subtle self-promotion. Despite the fame of the Medici chapel, Gozzoli's name did not ascend to the same heights as some of his contemporaries or those who followed. Perhaps it was his focus on narrative detail over dramatic human emotion, or his adherence to an older, more decorative style compared to the groundbreaking innovations happening around him. Giorgio Vasari, the famous chronicler of artists, described Gozzoli as a truly good master and praised his great readiness and invention. Vasari acknowledged the beauty of the Medici chapel frescoes, noting their abundance of figures and the beauty of the landscapes. However, Vasari also seemed to place him in a category distinct from the great masters, like Leonardo or Michelangelo, perhaps seeing him as a master of decoration rather than profound artistic innovation. Gozzoli continued his work in Tuscany after the Medici chapel, accepting commissions in Pisa and other towns. His style remained consistent: crowded scenes, detailed landscapes, and an almost childlike joy in depicting the world around him. He died in 1497, a respected and successful artist in his time, but his greatest achievement, the Medici chapel, remains a quiet jewel. It is a place where you can still feel the presence of the Medici family, their wealth, their power, and their cleverness in using art to cement their legacy. The frescoes remain a vibrant testament to an artist who, for a time, made magic for the most powerful family in Florence, creating a visual feast that continues to captivate those who seek it out today. Number 6, Andrea del Verrocchio, the master behind the masters. You know the names: Leonardo da Vinci, Sandro Botticelli, Pietro Perugino, Domenico Ghirlandaio. These were titans of the Renaissance, artists whose works changed the course of history. But what if I told you that all these giants, every single one of them, walked through the same workshop door, learned from the same hands, and absorbed knowledge from the same master? That master was Andrea del Verrocchio. Verrocchio, born around 1435, began his career as a goldsmith, a trade that demanded incredible precision, intricate detail, and a deep understanding of metalwork. This foundational training in goldsmithing would prove crucial for his later successes as a sculptor, giving him an unparalleled understanding of materials and techniques. His workshop in Florence became one of the most important artistic centers of its time. It was not just a place for making art, it was a school, a crucible, where young talents were forged. Verrocchio himself was a polymath skilled in sculpture, painting, and goldsmithing. This versatility allowed him to take on a wide range of commissions, from small devotional pieces to monumental public sculptures. His reputation grew steadily in Florence, drawing the attention of the city's most influential patrons, including the powerful Medici family. One of Verrocchio's most iconic works for the Medici is the bronze statue of David, now housed in the Bargello Museum. Commissioned by Lorenzo de' Medici and his brother Giuliano, this sculpture represents the young biblical hero standing triumphantly over the severed head of Goliath. Verrocchio's David is different from the earlier version by Donatello. Verrocchio's David is slender, almost graceful, with a knowing smirk on his face. He is depicted not as a muscular brute, but as a clever youth who used wit and divine favor to defeat his giant foe. Details are exquisite. The texture of David's tunic, the intricate curls of his hair, and the gruesome but realistic details of Goliath's head beneath his foot. The sculpture was placed prominently in the Palazzo Medici, a symbol of Florence's Republican ideals and a subtle nod to the Medici family's own triumph over adversaries. Vasari described Verrocchio's David as a masterpiece, noting its lively expression and graceful pose. Another significant commission from the Medici was the Putto with a dolphin, a bronze sculpture originally designed for the fountain in the courtyard of the Palazzo Medici. This playful figure of a cherubic child embracing a dolphin and spouting water is a testament to Verrocchio's mastery of movement and light. The child's skin seems to shimmer, and the sense of playful motion is palpable. It is a work of great charm and technical skill, showcasing Verrocchio's ability to imbue his bronze figures with a sense of life and vitality. The original location in the Medici courtyard highlighted the family's love for classical themes and their desire to create a beautiful and aesthetically pleasing environment within their home. Perhaps one of Verrocchio's most moving and historically significant commissions for the Medici is the tomb of Piero and Giovanni de' Medici in the old sacristy of San Lorenzo. This elaborate funerary monument, completed around 1472, stands as a testament to the Medici family's patronage and Verrocchio's innovative design. The tomb is a remarkable fusion of marble, bronze, and porphyry, a rich purple stone. The sarcophagus is adorned with intricate bronze decorations, including elegant volutes and classical motifs. Two bronze nets draped over the monument add a surprising visual element, demonstrating Verrocchio's inventiveness. The tomb's presence in San Lorenzo, the Medici family church, solidified their presence and legacy within the heart of Florence. It was a work that combined the solemnity of death with the artistic brilliance of the Renaissance. Verrocchio also trained many of the artists who would later eclipse his own fame. Leonardo da Vinci, the ultimate Renaissance man, was a pupil in Verrocchio's workshop for many years. It is said that Leonardo even painted one of the angels in Verrocchio's painting. The baptism of Christ, his angel being so beautiful that it caused Verrocchio to lay down his brush in humility. While this story may be partly legend, it speaks to the incredible talent that blossomed under Verrocchio's guidance. Botticelli, known for his flowing lines and mythological masterpieces, also absorbed lessons in anatomy and composition from Verrocchio. Ghirlandaio, the master of intricate narrative frescoes, and Perugino, the teacher of Raphael, also passed through Verrocchio's studio, learning the fundamentals of their craft from him. Verrocchio's artistic philosophy emphasized meticulous study of anatomy, careful drawing, and a deep understanding of materials. He encouraged his students to observe the world around them, to study the human form, and to master the technical skills necessary to bring their visions to life. Other records from his workshop show his dedication to precise execution and his constant experimentation with different techniques. He was not just a craftsman, he was an innovator who pushed the boundaries of what was possible in sculpture and painting. Later in his career, Verrocchio accepted a monumental commission in Venice, the equestrian statue of Bartolomeo Colleoni. This grand bronze monument, depicting a powerful military commander on horseback, is one of the most impressive equestrian statues ever created. Though not a Medici commission, it showcases the immense talent and reputation Verrocchio had achieved, extending his influence beyond Florence. He spent his final years in Venice, working on this project, a fitting capstone to a career dedicated to mastering the art of bronze. When Verrocchio died in Venice in 1488, his legacy was profound, even if his name today is not as immediately recognizable as his famous students. He trained a generation of masters, pushing them to achieve artistic greatness. He created iconic works for the Medici family that helped define the Florentine Renaissance. His workshop was a hub of innovation, a place where ideas were exchanged and techniques were perfected. Vasari lauded him, saying that Verrocchio was diligent in all his works, and that he made his sculptures with a beautiful grace. Verrocchio was not just a successful artist, he was a pivotal figure, a bridge between earlier traditions and the groundbreaking innovations that followed. He was the silent force, the guiding hand, the master behind the masters, whose influence echoes through the ages, even if his own spotlight has dimmed. Number 5. Antonio del Pogliuolo, the master of muscle and movement. Imagine an artist obsessed with the human body in motion, with every sinew and muscle flexing, every limb twisted in dynamic action. This was Antonio del Pogliuolo, a true Renaissance powerhouse, often working alongside his brother Piero. Born around 1429, Antonio began his artistic journey not with paint or chisel, but with gold. He trained as a goldsmith, a trade that demanded incredible precision, intricate detail, and an understanding of how to manipulate precious metals. This early training deeply influenced his later work in painting and sculpture, giving his figures a remarkable clarity and definition, as if sculpted from the very canvas. The Pogliuolo brothers ran a highly successful workshop in Florence, attracting commissions from the city's elite, including the Medici family. Their work was characterized by a groundbreaking approach to anatomy. They were among the first artists to dissect human bodies, a controversial practice at the time, to truly understand the underlying structure of muscles and bone. This scientific curiosity allowed them to depict figures with an unprecedented level of realism and dynamic energy, pushing the boundaries of artistic representation. For the Medici, the Pogliuolo brothers created several significant works. One striking example is a pair of small paintings depicting the labors of Hercules, Hercules in the Hydra, and Hercules strangling Antaeus. These works, originally painted around 1475 for the Palazzo Medici, illustrate the intense dynamism that defined Antonio's style. In Hercules and the Hydra, Hercules is shown in mid-swing, his club raised, muscles bulging as he battles the multi-headed serpent. Every part of his body is engaged in the struggle, a whirlwind of powerful movement. Similarly, in Hercules strangling Antaeus, the hero lifts the giant Antaeus off the ground, depriving him of his strength. The figures are locked in a desperate struggle, their bodies contorted, their expressions strained. These small panels, though not grand in scale, are explosions of energy, showcasing Antonio's obsession with capturing the peak moment of physical exertion. Records from the Medici archives show that these paintings were highly valued by the family, displayed prominently in their private quarters, perhaps in Lorenzo the Magnificent's studiolo or private study. They were not just decorative pieces, they were intellectual exercises, expressions of classical power and human strength, themes deeply appealing to the humanist interests of the Medici. The vibrant colors and meticulous rendering of the figures made them stand out, reflecting the advanced understanding of anatomy that Antonio possessed. Antonio del Pogliuolo's fame was not limited to painting. He was also a master sculptor, particularly in bronze. His small bronze sculpture of Hercules and Antaeus, a replica of the painting, captures the same intense struggle in 3 dimensions. These small bronzes were highly sought after by collectors, including the Medici, for their exquisite craftsmanship and dramatic compositions. They demonstrated his versatility and his ability to translate his artistic vision across different media. Perhaps his most renowned work in printmaking is the engraving Battle of the Nudes, created around 1470. This monumental print depicts a chaotic struggle between 10 muscular male figures armed with swords, axes, and bows. It is a powerful display of anatomical knowledge and dramatic composition. Every figure is contorted, muscles rippling in a desperate, tangled conflict. It is a work that feels almost modern in its raw intensity and its focus on the human body as a machine of war. While not directly commissioned by the Medici, it reflects the artistic innovations happening in Florence, innovations that the Medici fostered through their general patronage of artists like Antonio. The Battle of the Nudes served as a source of inspiration for countless artists who followed, offering a masterclass in rendering complex poses and powerful movement. The Pogliuolo brothers also worked on significant projects outside of direct Medici commissions, but within their sphere of influence. For example, they created the bronze tomb of Pope Sixtus IV in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, a monumental work that combined their skill in sculpture with their talent for intricate ornamentation. Though for the papacy, this commission demonstrated their reputation and influence, which had undoubtedly been bolstered by their work for the Medici in Florence. But Antonio also contributed to the design of church vestments and other decorative arts, further showcasing the breadth of his artistic talents. Vasari, in his Lives of the Artists, praised Antonio del Pogliuolo for his skill in drawing and for his profound understanding of anatomy. And Vasari wrote that Antonio had a more modern manner and was the first to make a study of the human body, removing the skin to discover the muscles. This recognition from Vasari highlights Antonio's pioneering role in the anatomical studies that became central to the High Renaissance. His dedication to understanding the human form, not just from observation but from direct study, set him apart. Antonio del Pogliuolo died in Rome in 1498, a highly respected and successful artist. His contribution to the Renaissance was immense, especially in pushing the boundaries of anatomical representation and dynamic composition. His works, particularly those for the Medici, captured the raw energy and intellectual curiosity of the age. While his name might not echo as loudly as Leonardo or Michelangelo today, his influence on the depiction of the human form, particularly in movement and struggle, was profound. He was the artist who made the body sing, twitch, and fight on canvas and in bronze, leaving behind a legacy of powerful, visceral art that still commands attention for its sheer force and masterful execution. Number 4, Filippino Lippi, the elegant narrator of sacred stories. Imagine being born into a family of artistic genius. Your father, Fra Filippo Lippi, was a groundbreaking painter, known for his graceful figures and tender devotional scenes. Your artistic godfather was none other than the legendary Sandro Botticelli, a master of flowing lines and mythological beauty. This was the world of Filippino Lippi, born around 1457. While his father and Botticelli cast long shadows, Filippino carved out his own distinctive style, becoming a sought-after artist for the most powerful families in Florence, including the Medici. Filippino's early training was steeped in the rich artistic traditions of Florence. After his father's death, he was placed under the tutelage of Botticelli, a move that significantly shaped his early work. You can see Botticelli's influence in Filippino's early paintings, the delicate features, the flowing drapery, and a certain lyrical quality in the figures. However, Filippino soon developed his own unique voice, characterized by a more expressive use of color, complex compositions, and a tendency towards the imaginative, and sometimes even the slightly eccentric. The Medici family recognized Filippino's talent early on. They were keen patrons, always on the lookout for promising artists to decorate their homes, their churches, and their private chapels. Filippino received several commissions from the Medici and their close associates, demonstrating their trust in his abilities. One notable work for the Medici was a commission for the Adoration of the Magi for the convent of San Donato a Scopeto. This was a significant project, but it was unfortunately left unfinished by Filippino due to other commitments. The Medici later passed this commission to Leonardo da Vinci, whose unfinished Adoration of the Magi is now in the Uffizi Gallery. This anecdote shows how highly the Medici valued Filippino's initial involvement and his standing among the top artists of his time. Filippino's painting for Francesco Pugliese, a prominent Florentine merchant with strong ties to the Medici circle, provides another example of his work for this powerful network. The Pugliese altarpiece, depicting the Virgin and Child with Saint Stephen and John the Baptist, showcases Filippino's mature style. The figures are elegant and refined, yet there is an emotional intensity in their expressions. The colors are rich and vibrant, and the details of the saint's garments and attributes are rendered with precision. This altarpiece, intended for a private chapel, reflects the pious yet sophisticated tastes of the Medici-connected elite. One of Filippino's most significant achievements was his work on the frescoes in the Strozzi Chapel in Santa Maria Novella, commissioned by Filippo Strozzi, another prominent family allied with the Medici. These frescoes depict scenes from the lives of St. Philip and St. John the Evangelist. Here, Filippino truly unleashes his imagination. The scenes are filled with dramatic action, architectural fantasies, and an almost archaeological precision in rendering classical details. For example, in the Exorcism of the Demon by St. Philip, the scene is set amidst elaborate classical ruins, complete with strange creatures and a swirling sense of supernatural energy. The figures are expressive, their gestures dynamic, conveying a range of emotions from terror to awe. Records suggest Filippino traveled to Rome in the late 1480s, where he was exposed to ancient Roman art and architecture. This experience profoundly influenced his later work, leading him to incorporate more classical elements and a sense of historical realism into his compositions. He became fascinated with ancient artifacts and ruins, often depicting them with meticulous care in his paintings. This blend of ancient inspiration with Florentine elegance became a hallmark of his style. Filippino was known for his ability to tell a story through art. His narratives are complex, often filled with multiple figures and intertwining subplots, inviting the viewer to explore every corner of the canvas. He was also a master of portraiture. He painted several portraits for Medici family members and their allies, capturing the likeness and personality of his sitters with sensitivity. These portraits were not just about resemblance, they conveyed status, intelligence, and character. His portraits often share a certain introspection, a quiet dignity that reveals the inner life of the subject. Vasari admired Filippino, stating that he was courteous, amiable, and modest, and never seemed to desire anything beyond his own tranquil life. Vasari also praised his artistic versatility and his ability to adapt his style to different commissions. He noted Filippino's skill in handling color and composition and his knack for creating figures with a unique charm. Filippino was seen as an artist who, while building on the foundations laid by his father and Botticelli, brought a fresh, often more intense energy to his art. Filippino Lippi died young in 1504 at the height of his powers. His funeral was a grand affair, reflecting the high esteem in which he was held in Florence. He was buried in the church of San Michele Visdomini, a testament to his prominent status within the city. Though he is often overshadowed by the big three of the high Renaissance, Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael, Filippino's contribution to the development of Florentine art was significant. He was a master of narrative, a brilliant colorist, and an artist who brought a unique blend of elegance, imagination, and emotional depth to his sacred and secular works. His paintings, especially those commissioned by the Medici and their allies, remain vibrant testaments to an artist who truly thrived under the patronage of one of history's most influential families, leaving behind a legacy of subtle beauty and captivating storytelling. Number 3. Baccio Bandinelli, the ambitious sculptor and rival. Imagine a sculptor who longed to be Michelangelo, who openly criticized the titans of his age, and who often found himself embroiled in artistic rivalries. This was Baccio Bandinelli, born in Florence in 1488. He was a man of immense ambition, considerable talent, and a fiery temperament. While he may not be a household name today, Like some of his more famous contemporaries, Bandinelli was a prominent figure in Florentine art during the High Renaissance and Mannerist periods, securing major commissions from the Medici family throughout their various periods of power. Bandinelli initially trained as a goldsmith, a common path for many sculptors of his era, learning the meticulous skills of metalwork. He then studied sculpture, absorbing the techniques of masters like Giovanni Francesco Rustici and Andrea Sansovino. From a young age, Bandinelli harbored a fierce desire to prove himself the equal, if not the superior, of Michelangelo. This ambition fueled much of his career and his often contentious relationships with other artists. His most famous work, and arguably his most controversial, is the marble group of Hercules and Cacus in the Piazza della Signoria in Florence. This monumental sculpture was commissioned by Pope Clement VII, a Medici pope, in 1525 to stand opposite Michelangelo's David. The intention was to create a heroic counterpoint, symbolizing Medici rule and strength. However, the political turmoil of Florence meant the project was delayed. When it was finally completed and unveiled in 1534 under Duke Alessandro de' Medici, it received a lukewarm, even critical reception from the Florentine public and fellow artists. The passages in Vasari's writings describe how Bandinelli's enemies, including Benvenuto Cellini, ridiculed the statue, calling it a sack of melons due to its blocky muscular forms. Despite the criticism, the Medici continued to patronize Bandinelli. Duke Cosimo I de' Medici, who became ruler of Florence in 1537, found Bandinelli to be a reliable and industrious sculptor. Cosimo I was a pragmatic ruler, eager to use art to legitimize his new ducal power. He needed artists who could produce grand, imposing works quickly and efficiently, and Bandinelli fit the bill. Records from the ducal archives show that Cosimo I provided Bandinelli with numerous commissions and sustained patronage, allowing him to maintain a large workshop and a significant income. One of Bandinelli's key commissions for Cosimo I was the decoration of the audience hall in Palazzo Vecchio, the ducal palace. Here, he carved a series of monumental statues of Roman emperors and mythological figures. These figures, though sometimes criticized for their academic stiffness, conveyed the sense of classical authority and imperial grandeur that Cosimo I sought to project. Bandinelli's Giovanni delle Bande Nere, a bronze statue of Cosimo I's father, was another significant work intended to honor the Medici patriarch. Bandinelli also received a commission for the choir enclosure and high altar in the Duomo, Florence Cathedral. This massive project involved numerous marble figures of saints and biblical scenes, demonstrating Bandinelli's ability to handle large-scale architectural and sculptural programs. Though parts of this project were later dismantled, the surviving figures show his characteristic emphasis on musculature and dramatic poses, reflecting the Mannerist style that was then emerging. The Medici family's investment in this project highlighted their commitment to the spiritual and artistic heart of Florence. His ambition often led to conflict. He relentlessly pursued commissions, sometimes undermining other artists to gain favor. Vasari details instances of Bandinelli's rivalries, particularly with Michelangelo. There's a famous anecdote where Michelangelo was supposedly given a massive block of marble, but Bandinelli managed to convince Pope Clement VII to give it to him instead for the Hercules and Cacus project. This story, whether entirely accurate or embellished, illustrates the fierce competition and politicking that characterized the Florentine art world. Bandinelli often complained about the lack of recognition he felt he deserved, viewing himself as unjustly overlooked. Vasari, while acknowledging Bandinelli's talent and productivity, also presented a somewhat complex portrait of the sculptor. Vasari noted Bandinelli's great industry and his dedication to drawing and anatomical study. He also recorded Bandinelli's proud and difficult personality, his tendency to criticize others, and his unwavering self-belief. Vasari recounted how Bandinelli, feeling his efforts were not fully appreciated, sometimes destroyed his own works in frustration, a testament to his volatile nature. Bandinelli established an academy in Florence, one of the earliest institutions for artistic training in the city, where he taught drawing and anatomy to young students. This initiative shows his dedication to the future of art and his desire to shape the next generation of sculptors, instilling in them his own rigorous approach to the human form. This academy received some support from the Medici, who saw value in fostering artistic education. Baccio Bandinelli died in 1560, a wealthy and influential figure in Florence. Despite the controversies that surrounded him, he left behind a substantial body of work, much of it for the Medici. While art historians often debate the artistic merit of his sculptures compared to the transcendent genius of Michelangelo, there is no denying his historical importance. He was a key figure in the transition from the High Renaissance to Mannerism, and his unwavering patronage by the Medici, particularly Cosimo I, illustrates how power dynamics and practical considerations could shape artistic careers. He was an artist who always aimed for the top, striving for greatness, even if his journey was marked by rivalry and sometimes a critical reception. He was the ambitious sculptor who played a crucial role in shaping the visual landscape of Medici Florence, a testament to a patron's willingness to invest in a talented, if tempestuous, artist. Number 2, Pontormo, the eccentric visionary of the Medici court. Imagine an artist whose soul seemed to vibrate with an unseen energy, whose figures possessed a strange, almost unsettling beauty, and whose personal life was marked by reclusiveness and intense self-scrutiny. This was Jacopo Carucci, known as Pontormo, born in 1494 in the town of Pontormo near Florence. He was an artist who defied easy categorization, a true individualist whose works often challenged the classical ideals of beauty and harmony that defined the High Renaissance. Despite his unconventional style and often troubled personality, Pontormo found significant patronage from the Medici family, particularly under the rule of Duke Cosimo I. Pontormo's early artistic life was marked by a series of apprenticeships under some of Florence's leading masters, Leonardo da Vinci, Mariotto Albertinelli, Piero di Cosimo, and finally Andrea del Sarto. From Andrea del Sarto, a master of graceful compositions and harmonious colors, Pontormo learned the fundamentals of fresco and oil painting. However, Pontormo soon veered away from the serene classicism of his teacher, developing a highly personal style known as Mannerism, characterized by elongated figures, twisted poses, vibrant and sometimes jarring colors, and a heightened emotional intensity. One of Pontormo's most striking and emotionally charged works is the Deposition from the Cross in the Capponi Chapel in Santa Felicita, Florence. Completed around 1528, this altarpiece is a masterclass in emotional expression and unconventional composition. The figures seem to float in a strange, almost weightless space. Their bodies are elongated and gracefully contorted, their expressions conveying profound grief and sorrow. The colors are vivid and unusual, acid greens, brilliant oranges, and rose pinks that seem to glow from within. There is no clear ground line or sense of gravity, creating a dreamlike, disorienting effect. This work, though not a direct Medici commission, exemplifies the innovative and deeply personal style that attracted some members of the Medici family. Pontormo's early connections to the Medici began through his association with Leo X, the Medici Pope. He worked on various festival decorations for the Medici during important events, showcasing his ability to create striking and memorable imagery. When Duke Alessandro de' Medici came to power, Pontormo received commissions for portraits, including one of Alessandro himself, demonstrating the family's recognition of his unique talent. Under Duke Cosimo I de' Medici, Pontormo found a more sustained patron. Cosimo I was a shrewd ruler who understood the power of art to legitimize his new ducal status. He commissioned numerous works from Pontormo, despite the artist's somewhat eccentric reputation and his increasingly introverted personality. One of the most important commissions from Cosimo I was for the frescoes in the villa of Poggio a Caiano depicting Vertumnus and Pomona. These frescoes, completed around 1521, show a more pastoral and idyllic side of Pontormo's art, filled with lush landscapes and figures in harmonious repose, even as they retain his distinctive elegance. The frescoes celebrate the fruits of the earth and the cycle of nature, reflecting the Medici's connection to the land and their agricultural wealth. Another significant project for Cosimo I was the decoration of the Duke's private apartments in Palazzo Vecchio. Here, Pontormo undertook a monumental fresco cycle in the Loggia di Perseo, depicting mythological scenes. Unfortunately, most of these frescoes are now lost, a tragic loss for art history. However, contemporary descriptions and preparatory drawings suggest they were filled with the same vibrant energy and unconventional beauty that characterized his other works. The fact that Cosimo I entrusted such important personal spaces to Pontormo speaks volumes about the Duke's appreciation for the artist's unique vision. Pontormo also painted numerous portraits for the Medici family and their inner circle. His portraits are known for their psychological depth and their striking formal qualities. For example, his portrait of Cosimo the Elder, painted posthumously, captures the stern yet intellectual demeanor of the patriarch. His portrait of a young man in a pink doublet, while not definitively identified as a Medici, shows his skill in conveying the elegance and introspection of his sitter. These portraits often feature elongated faces, intense gazes, and an almost melancholic air, reflecting the complex emotional world of his subjects. Pontormo's personal life was famously reclusive. Vasari, who was a contemporary and knew Pontormo, described him as melancholic, solitary, and obsessive. Pontormo kept detailed diaries known as his Diaries of Food and Art, in which he meticulously recorded his daily meals, his health, and his artistic progress. These diaries offer a rare glimpse into the mind of an artist, revealing his anxieties, his perfectionism, and his often fraught relationship with the world. He was known to avoid social gatherings and preferred to work in solitude, sometimes even blocking off windows to control the light and prevent prying eyes from seeing his works in progress. Despite his eccentricities, Cosimo I de' Medici consistently supported Pontormo, understanding that the artist's unique vision could produce works unlike any other. The Duke's patronage allowed Pontormo to continue experimenting and developing his distinctive style, even when it deviated sharply from the mainstream. Pontormo's death in 1557 marked the end of an extraordinary career. Vasari, while acknowledging Pontormo's difficult personality, recognized his genius, stating that Pontormo had a unique and beautiful imagination, and he made figures with a charm and grace that belonged to him alone. Today, Pontormo remains a fascinating figure. His works, with their bold colors, expressive figures, and emotional intensity, continue to captivate and challenge viewers. His art stands as a powerful testament to the diversity of artistic expression during the Renaissance, and to the Medici family's willingness to embrace artists who pushed boundaries and explored new ways of seeing the world. He was a visionary who, under the patronage of the Medici, created a body of work that is both deeply personal and universally resonant, leaving behind a legacy of art that truly stands apart. Number 1. Bronzino, the elegant court, painter of the Medici dukes. You think of Renaissance portraits, and you might picture serene faces, soft lighting, and a certain warmth. Now imagine a different kind of portrait one. So precise, so meticulously detailed, so utterly polished, that the subjects seem to glow with an almost unnerving perfection. Their skin appears like porcelain, their clothes shimmer with impossible richness, and their gaze often holds a cool, distant intensity. This was the signature style of Agnolo di Cosimo, better known as Bronzino, the official court painter to the first Duke of Florence, Cosimo I de' Medici, and his formidable wife, Eleonora of Toledo. Born in 1503, Bronzino epitomized the refined, sophisticated, and sometimes enigmatic aesthetics of mannerism, an artistic movement that followed the High Renaissance. Bronzino began his artistic journey as a pupil of Raffaellino del Garbo, and then, more significantly, with Pontormo. From Pontormo, he absorbed a masterful command of drawing and composition, but he soon diverged from his teacher's more emotionally charged and unconventional style. Bronzino developed a cooler, more academic approach, focusing on linear precision, polished surfaces, and a detached elegance that perfectly suited the image of power and authority that Cosimo I de' Medici sought to project. Cosimo I de' Medici seized power in Florence in 1537, establishing himself as the first duke. He was a shrewd and ambitious ruler who understood the immense power of art as propaganda. He sought to transform Florence into a ducal court that rivaled the grandest in Europe. For this monumental task, he needed an artist who could capture the essence of his family's new status, their wealth, and their absolute authority. Bronzino was the perfect choice. He became the official court painter, a position of immense prestige and responsibility. Bronzino's portraits of Cosimo I and Eleonora of Toledo are legendary. His portrait of Eleonora of Toledo and her son Don Giovanni is perhaps his most iconic work. Eleonora is depicted in a magnificent gown of white brocade with black arabesques, its intricate patterns rendered with astonishing fidelity. Her skin is pale, her expression serene, and her hands are delicately clasped. Her son Don Giovanni stands beside her, his small hand placed on her arm, mirroring her elegant posture. The painting is a study in textures, the stiffness of the brocade, the sheen of pearls, the softness of velvet. Every detail, from the individual stitches on the gown to the delicate features of their faces, is rendered with an almost photographic clarity. This portrait was not just a likeness, it was a symbol of Medici dynastic power, an affirmation of their legitimate claim to rule. Bronzino painted numerous portraits of Cosimo I, each one capturing the Duke's stern, intelligent, and often imposing presence. In his portrait of Cosimo I in armor, the Duke is depicted in a gleaming suit of armor, his hand resting on his helmet, his gaze steady and direct. The metal of the armor gleams with realistic highlights, demonstrating Bronzino's mastery of light and reflection. These portraits served as official images of the ducal family, distributed to other courts and displayed prominently in their residences, reinforcing their image as powerful and sophisticated rulers. Beyond the ducal family, Bronzino also painted portraits of their close allies, courtiers, poets, and intellectuals who frequented the Medici court. His portrait of Laura Badafferi, a celebrated poetess, shows her in a dark, severe dress, her hand delicately holding a book. Her expression is thoughtful and refined, reflecting her intellectual prowess. Similarly, his portrait of Lucrezia Panciacci captures the elegance and quiet dignity of the Florentine noblewoman. These portraits showcase Bronzino's ability to imbue his sitters with a sense of inner life, even amidst the polished surfaces and formal poses. Bronzino's artistic output for the Medici was not limited to portraits. He also painted allegorical and mythological scenes, often filled with complex symbolism. His Anne allegory with Venus and Cupid, sometimes called Venus, Cupid, Folly, and Time, is a dazzling and enigmatic work. It depicts Venus and Cupid engaged in an incestuous embrace, surrounded by figures representing folly, jealousy, and oblivion. Father Time pulls back a curtain, revealing the scene. The figures are exquisitely rendered, their bodies smooth and idealized, almost sculpted. The colors are vibrant and jewel-like. This painting is filled with cryptic meanings and layers of symbolism, inviting viewers to decipher its hidden messages without offering easy explanations. It was likely commissioned for a sophisticated patron, perhaps even Cosimo I himself, for private enjoyment and intellectual contemplation. Bronzino also contributed to the grand decorative schemes of the Palazzo Vecchio, particularly in Eleonora of Toledo's apartments. He created fresco cycles and painted altarpieces for Medici chapels and churches. His work consistently demonstrated a high degree of technical skill, a precise hand, and an unwavering commitment to clarity and finish. Records indicate that he was very well compensated by the Medici, enjoying a stable and prosperous career under their patronage. He became a respected figure at court, moving in the highest circles of Florentine society. When Vasari, a fellow artist and historian, held Bronzino in high esteem. Vasari praised Bronzino's skill in portraiture, noting his ability to capture the grace and beauty of his sitters and to render their clothing and jewels with astonishing detail. Vasari also admired Bronzino's draftsmanship and his dedication to his craft, describing him as a meticulous and diligent artist. He saw Bronzino as a master of the Florentine style, a painter who elevated elegance and precision to new heights. Bronzino died in 1572, leaving behind a vast body of work that profoundly influenced the art of the later 16th century. His cool, refined style became a benchmark for court portraiture across Europe. While his works might sometimes be seen as less emotionally expressive than those of the high Renaissance masters, their undeniable beauty, technical brilliance, and psychological penetration continue to fascinate. He was the ultimate court painter, an artist who perfectly captured the image of power, sophistication, and enduring legacy for the Medici, becoming an indispensable part of their ducal court and defining a key era in Florentine art.